Recording?
It's ready.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, Cindy. I am so honored to have you with me this morning. My guest in this episode is Cindy Gunraj.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming and being a part of this special series of sharing, I want to call it, because it's not classes of sharing during the Women's History Month. It's so important for us as women to support our men and our women through what
Mm-hmm.
we do. So thank you for being a part of this show today. As I shared for the past 3 weeks, I do my show once a month, but for History Month, Spirit just placed it on my heart to share it. So what I shared last two shows were that over the years, women have been the source of all life. Quiet power behind many thrones, loud power, screaming at the birth of her children as they burst into life. She has cried at the loss of children and sat at the bedside of those in pain and welcoming death sometimes. She has been the voice of hope for those who've had their hearts broken. She has wiped our tears with her apron when we had scraped our knees or had bloody nose. Women have been at the forefront of every revolution, every act of resistance that was needed in defense and protection and supplication towards freedom and peace. So in our families, women have been the power prayers that made many desires of our hearts realized. Women have been, in many cases, the unsung heroes and some of in our spiritual practices and religion. That's one of the reasons that I wanted, because the unsung heroes we always see, or we usually see, that when history is history written from the male dominant culture. And so for the month of March, it is our responsibility, our duty, and my pleasure to know the power of women and to share the power in women and women in power. So welcome to the show. Cindy, I just met you and it's been just like, I feel like I've met you before. It must be in another incarnation.
Yes.
We just connected so special. And I really believe that Spirit is always guiding us, and we meet people and in passing, sometime at the grocery store or in the laundry or wherever it is that we're going, and sometimes we're so preoccupied that we miss that we've connected before.
Mm-hmm.
Before some way. So I'm glad that we took the time to speak today to see, to connect to that spirit. So Cindy Gunraj, she has successfully overcame many life transitions. Growing up, she was immersed in a culture where women act as caretakers in the home, but are taught to suppress their voice and desires. Cindy's time as a performer allowed her to develop her communication skills, which led her to awakening a new voice and identity and shedding the limited cultural belief. Cindy attained her BA in management and economics. She's also a certified divorce coach, yoga certified teacher. That's where we met, in the yoga sphere.
Mm.
Yes, Cindy is also a speaker who specializes in presentations and workshops to empower others to overcome difficult life situations. You've spoken at the United Nations, UNICEF, Dress for Success, women all over the world. And so today, I want you to share with us, number one, your background. Number two, what brings you here.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, what do you want women to take away from knowing that we are power in women and women in power? So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful opening that did you write that yourself?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yes, it really touched me. So thank you for that opening. Um, I felt like I touched into that and could feel that and have seen that growing up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so to answer your question, the first question is, you know, tell us about your background, right? So Yeyefini, I've had the pleasure of having a very rich cultural background. I grew up in the Caribbean, in Trinidad. I was born, and my mom is from Trinidad. My dad is from Guyana, South America. And I remember family time, parties, going to the beach, building a fire to cook our curry chicken. You know, like you know what I mean. You have those memories shape you, right? I remember how important family was, and that is what I grew up with. My mom is one of 12 siblings. My dad is one of 13.
Whoa.
So I grew up with tons of cousins, aunts, uncles, going to a lot of festivities, a lot of traditional events, religious events, and that is what I grew up in. And flash forward, we left Trinidad when I was 8. My dad worked as a chemical engineer. The plant got closed down in Trinidad, so he came to the U.S. to seek work, and came first, left the family, so that was really hard on my mom. But then later on, we were all able to come up, and it was a very, very difficult acclimation, Yeyefini, because essentially my family went from like a middle class life in the Caribbean to all of us living in a house to a 1 bedroom. And then my mom went out. I remember she was taking odd jobs. She was a stay-at-home mom, and now she's working at Dunkin' Donuts and wherever she could find, you know. So talk about a very, just a difficult transition in terms of a new country. There new culture around us, right? New kinds of people, and yet my family wanted to hold on and embrace their culture and their traditions, right? So you had that too, and I had some cousins also, and aunts and uncles that lived in the U.S. So we had a foundation, a bit of a foundation.
Right.
But I remember those years being so formative and so hard for my folks to find a footing in a new country. And so that's a little bit about my cultural background. Religious, my dad grew up as Christian, my mom grew up as Hindu. So I was exposed to both religions. And I just found myself learning so much about spoken and unspoken rules in my culture. And it wasn't later on into my own life, Yeyefini, where this leads to the second question. You said, what do you do, right? So the second question is, I went through, everybody goes through a life change, that they have a chance to learn more about themselves, right? And learn some hard lessons, right? So mine came in the form of a divorce, and talk about stepping into a new identity.
Whoa.
Right? Because everything I knew, it just shifted right away, environment, financial status, in-laws, social circles, my health and well-being, right? What my parents thought of me, who they saw me to be, so many things changed. And that was a defining moment in really walking the walk and giving me the opportunity to see what I was made of, right? Because when you go through a transition like that, there's things that come up to test you, like cultural taboos and stigmas, right? Something like, You know, women can't live alone. Women can't manage finances. You know, it's not. Sometimes I saw women, the men seeing the women as incompetent. You know, so it's like this kind of programming. I was around it, right? There's a lot of beauty in the culture that I grew up with, but there was also some room for improvement as well, you know? So all of this shaped my work, and my work is really helping, you know, women and also the young men, because you know, we need to show better role models for these young people, right? Helping them rise from cultural limitations, cultural taboos that keep them from really reaching the truth of them, their potential.
Yeah, because one of the things that when we as women heal, we heal the world.
Yes.
We heal the world because every man has to come through a woman, is nurtured by a woman. So for us to be grounded and to know that the cultures that we bring, we can change it. We can enhance it. We don't have to always accept what it is blindly as a dogma and continue it while we are evolving and the world is getting larger. I believe that every one of us has a divine purpose and destiny. And you coming here at 8 years old was part of your destiny. Was
Yes.
a shift. You were able to help your family, though they felt perhaps they were doing it because they were bringing you to find a better way of living. You were actually bringing them to a new understanding because as an 8-year-old, you were coming with 8-year-old eyes. You were open to the things that you could compare easily and quickly to what shift, and you can adjust. Whereas they are adults and they're focusing, we have to feed these children. We can't get distracted with, let's heal ourselves. Let's go inside. You might go there for a minute, but you got to come back out and get the Dunkin' Donuts or wherever it is that life takes you. The ego has to be shut down and you realize, you know what, right now I can't get distracted. So you brought them into the opportunity to see, and look at you today. You have taught them the value of them opening their minds and accepting you for whatever it is that you went through, that you bravely stepped through to become who you are. And even greater than that is that you're using your path to empower other women. The motto of my institute is empowering the people to empower themselves and use this empowerment to change the world. It's always about what you're giving back.
Yes.
Back in life is the way that you return, the way that you're guaranteed success in life. And so your work as a divorce counselor, that's amazing, because we always look at divorce as this negative thing that, oh, somebody messed up, or I failed myself, all of these other things, and we get into a place of shame and blaming ourselves. And for you to be there and and people have access to you, that's amazing. And during this time where we are going through struggle and finding fear, we have other things, larger things, that is kind of like a way preoccupying our minds.
Yeah.
We have the onslaught of the virus.
Yes.
Also, the opportunity for us to look at life in a different way. The opportunity for us to say, wait a minute, I need to maybe shift my perception. I'm going to be forced to look at life from a different way. And that requires a lot of courage.
Yes,
A lot
absolutely.
of courage. And you shared with me when we met not too long ago that you have 7 steps we can use in overcoming some of the challenges that we're facing. So I want you to jump right in there, and I'm trying to pull up, yes, and just get how to stay grounded in the midst of fear and uncertainty. Because the first rule that I have before you even state and share your 7 principles is stay away from negative, frightening, fearful programs that's on television and on radio.
Yeah.
that's around the media. That's the first principle. Stay away. I don't have a television. I haven't had a television for a long time. So the only way that I realize what's happening is when I get on Facebook and I follow the feed on the news. Now I downloaded the CBS News or one of those numbers, ABC or whatever. And now I know what's going on, because sometimes I tend to live kind of like in a vacuum, and that's by choice. Mm-hmm. I'm a very compassionate person, and I connect very much to joy and sadness. So if I see a lot of sadness and bombardment, my head goes and my spirit goes into a place that I take on exactly what's happening. So I program myself to detach from that. So I don't have a television in years. I don't have a microwave. I don't have things that I feel that are going to take me away from living my best life.
Right.
So knowing this now, I look at this stuff that is being said, and it got me afraid. Then I went to the doctor, and the driver of the bus was coughing, and I was like, oh my God.
Right.
So I went in to look at some of the things, and it really took me to a place of really knowing to use my tools, which is meditation, Reiki in the morning, my yoga practice, those things to keep me mindful and grounded. But I want you as the expert to share with me how we stay grounded in the midst of fear and uncertainty. So
yes, thank you for that. And what you shared is right on with my 7 practices for really stepping into the truth of yourself in the midst of a chaotic time, right? So one of the things that you mentioned, Yeyefini, is how, we have all this external chaos outside, the news, people coughing, that kind of thing, right? And then we have another part of it, right? We have that internal chaos, right? That those stories, and those things, like for example, one of my practices is to clear the confusion, right? So we have to clear the confusion within, because have you ever noticed when you feel really good inside, the moments of the day just seem to work in your favor?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Just zoom in.
It's like time stops. All of a sudden you're transported to a place where everything just seems to be in flow, right?
Like in a zone. You're just that's like when you first fall in love. Everything is just, the sky is bluer. The fireworks are bright.
Yes, absolutely.
Flowing on endorphins. You're just like, ah.
Yes. So let's even bring it to, let's say, what's happening with the virus, right? It's causing anxiousness, right? So, if we know that anxiousness is coming from within, then we have the ability to look at that and navigate it and make a different choice, right?
Yes.
And one of the things about clearing confusion is looking at, the roles that we played when we were growing up. When challenges come, do we immediately go to anxiousness, right? It's very important to take stock of that, because this is a challenge that has arisen right now, and it's
our old way of looking at things.
Yes. So look at the roles that you were programmed to, and that's really what, like, for example, for me, I was raised with women that didn't challenge authority. They didn't challenge men. They went along with, okay, that's what my husband says. That's what the elder says, the grandfather. That is what is going to be done, right? So right away you're in a role of you obey authority, right? So that's an example. Another example is looking at your identity. So if you're in a role of if you're looking at a role of authority and you don't necessarily agree with the authority, say the authority is saying, well, hey, you're incompetent, you can't manage finances, so I'm going to manage the finances, right? right? So then you're forming this identity where you could feel helpless. You could feel like, okay, I'm not going to challenge that because I'm
unworthy.
yes. Oh, so many things, right? So flash forward in this crisis challenge, this virus challenge we have now, here's an opportunity to see, what roles or identities are coming out for anxiousness to come out, hysteria, to cloud one's judgment, right? And there's a place for a role. There's a place for a mother, daughter, daughter-in-law. Those things are beautiful. But when they start clouding your own value system and the truth of who you believe you are and what you want for yourself and your potential, that's when it starts to be you're just playing a role and you're not living your humanity. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And that's one of the things that we have to, during this time of anxiety, and that is go back to hope and looking at hope as a way of jump starting. Are you getting creative? Are you getting a new sense of, well, it can't get any worse, so let me hope for the best. And that's when you start shifting.
Yes, and there's another thing too is you could look and see, okay, this is a challenge. So what is the opportunity here for me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Right? An opportunity could look like, you know what? I'm going to take control of my anxiousness. Right? I'm going to find ways to self-soothe myself. I'm going to take in uplifting material.
Yes.
Right? So there's ways to do it. There's options, but again, it starts with clearing that confusion. So that's the first practice.
Mm-hmm.
The second practice is your past is buried treasure. And I know you said there was an African word for looking into your past.
Yes, Sankofa. Yes, that's using the past in moving forward.
Yes. So this is a big part in changing.
You said passing is, second principle is?
Your past is buried treasure.
Okay, good. I got it. I'm writing it down. I was doing earlier, I was sharing it with some of the listeners, exactly that there are 7 principles coming up.
Oh, nice, nice.
The past is buried treasure.
Yes. So you know this, Yeyefini. Sometimes it's painful to look at the past, right?
Yes, yes.
Right. But you also know when you do look at the past, that's when we get to air out the skeletons from the closet, right? Yeah. We get to actually turn around and face that elephant in the room, and we see that maybe it's a mosquito, It's,
Yeah.
And so that is why it's so important to actually create the space to look at the past. You have to, because it's actually informing your future behavior, your actions, and your thinking.
That's where you're going to be jumping off from. Because that's all you have to go to. That's the only memory that's in your subconscious mind, that you're so unconscious that you're motivating and you're moving from that. That's all you have. That's what.
Yes.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Absolutely. So that's why it's so vital to look at your past, because there's so much golden nuggets in there. And one example is looking at if you're looking at your programming. Well, why do I get so anxious when I'm faced with life challenges? Then you can look at your family dynamics, your caretaker, your environment.
Yes.
What was that energy like there? What were the conversations like, right? All that shaped you, and also it set up relationships for you, the way you see the world and the relationships you will have.
Correct.
And so not only do you want to move into the past and look at the past, but you really want to investigate it. Because you know, when you dig and dig and dig, you actually come to the truth of the thing that's been stopping you, right? So that's why that principle is so very important to even step into grounding in a new role in the midst of very, very chaotic times.
Yes, yes, it's buried treasure. Dig into your treasure. I love that.
And the third principle or practice is conscious uncoupling. So this can relate to either, in the case of my work, it's when a woman, you know, she's leaving her marriage, it's consciously uncoupling from someone, okay? Meaning making intentional decisions, not unconscious ones, right? And in this case, with the virus and what's going on, this could be unconsciously, consciously uncoupling with your negative thoughts, your programming.
Yes, 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 yes. Just uncoupling, just separating. Intentionally.
Intentionally.
Not
Yes.
being distracted by anyone else, family, friend, media. You decided intentionally, I've looked into my past. This is not working for me. I know my triggers, so I'm separating.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So you put yourself into the zone of choice versus reaction.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And you also said a part where when you're consciously uncoupling, a part of it is cutting the external noise. You have to cut, like you said, the media, folks that are anxious around you, you know, things that you read that make you anxious, all that you need to cut, because what you're doing is you're creating space to intentionally make choices.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So how do we do that, right? We do that by creating time for self-reflection, you know, and that comes in the form of, you know, you could journal, you could sit and meditate, you could do some breathing exercises. This is what I call me time. All right. And I've got to say something about me time, Yeyefini, because I think you'll relate. Growing up, I saw the women in my culture rarely have me time. So what I noticed was their schedules were filled with family, chores, entertaining,
Correct.
doing one-off tasks, and worrying about everybody else's needs, right? So there was hardly any time or space for them to really dive into self-inquiry and feel like, you know, there's no way they could get to that self-discovery journey that it seems like you've had and I've had.
Yes, the beauty of that self-inquiry is that it makes you look back and say, wait a minute, I have value or do I not have value? And sometimes that's so scary because they say, I can't stop to think about this. Because number one, as you say, all of these the things externals are telling you how to function. As women, we have been broken down culturally, the universal culture, the larger culture, I should say, not the universal, but the Western culture has placed women in such a devalued place that even Mary doesn't have a position anymore in the triangle, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. She's now just a spirit instead of the Father, the Mother, and the child or the Son. And so when she's in a place where she's trying to self-inquire, she cannot take that time because it's not politically correct. It's not expected of her. She doesn't even know the value that she has because everything around her that says female is less than male. Yes. In that moment in the self-inquiry, she's going to have to say, wait a minute, I'm going to have to question the Bible. I'm gonna have to question the Quran. I'm gonna have to all of the words from the sages. I'm gonna have to question. No, 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 no. I'm gonna be ridiculed. I will bring shame on my family. So you stay in such a place of being subservient that you lock yourself in to the
Yes.
place of just accepting whatever the male-dominated culture says is the politically correct place for a female.
Right.
In not only acting with what's going on, you are giving them permission to even subjugate you even further.
And I love that you said permission, right? Because I felt what I noticed is there was always this asking for permission from the women to even explore needs for themselves, right? There wasn't this claiming of, I have worth. If I want to take some time off and go off, for a hike or go for a girls' weekend, there was none of that.
And you didn't have your other women. You didn't have your tribe to support you. So you stepped out by yourself. They'd be like, there's something wrong with her mentally.
Yes.
Let's lock her in the house.
So I talk about this in my book, winning your parents' approval for divorce, 7 practices to leave your marriage with their blessing. I specifically say, Yeyefini,
Repeat that, please. Repeat that. That was powerful. The titles of your book. That's what got me into saying, now see, yes. I want myself. Please say the title of your book and let us know that we have a gift coming.
Yes, absolutely. So my book, and I have it right here. Here it is. So it's called Winning Your Parents' Approval for Divorce, 7 Practices to Leave Your Marriage with Their Blessing.
Yes, love it, love it, love it. Yes, so go on.
Yes. So the stuff I'm actually teaching today, sharing with your listeners, is from the book, and it's stuff from my personal journey as well, working with clients. So it's got a lot of juice in there.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is it wasn't comfortable for a woman to step out and do something different. Because one, as you said, the other women would say, is she something wrong with her? And then 2, the men would challenge her.
Oh yeah, and challenge her husband.
Yes.
That woman under control, because that means you're going to start a revolution in the
Yes.
and down there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was the thinking. So you had, the head women also supporting that kind of thinking, right?
Yes.
I had a family member say to me recently, oh, you just have to let him win, So
that's why you moved here at 8 years old. The entire family programming.
So this is the thinking that gets placed on the young women and the boys. The boys they witness this, and they think, oh, well, in order to make my parents proud, I have to fulfill this role.
Correct.
And this identity. And maybe even if it doesn't feel right to them, right, it's more safer to fit into what everybody else is doing.
Correct. Because we are people of community. We need community. We're social beings.
Yes.
We want a community to support us and to say, yeah, I see you, I hear you, we appreciate you. So they're doing it even whilst they're fighting their internal selves. They're doing it, but they have to do what's politically correct and what's expected. So
yes, absolutely.
That's why we do the work that we're doing. That's the reason that we're doing, because we're trying to change the vocabulary, change the attitude, change the things, not only for our daughters, but for our sons.
Yes.
Because we are the ones that raise the children from the cradle to the grave.
Yes.
Ones.
Yes. And so it's part of me having empathy for the men in my culture was learning about their journey. And actually, I want to share with you, I went to a conference called, it was at a conversation between men and women, and they had a male speaker called Tony Porter. And what he does, Yeyefini, is he works with men who have been imprisoned due to domestic violence. So he works with them to rehabilitate them. And he's coming out and sharing the messages with the public that, you know, the reason that stuff happens is they get this programming and they get this inability to feel, and their emotions are shut down at much earlier age than females. So it's almost like when emotions come out, it comes out in a very volatile way.
Yeah.
You know, and that really helped me. It helped me with compassion and forgiveness for things that I witnessed when I would see women get abused, right? Psychologically, emotionally, physically. It helped me see why that was so. And that's why also going back to doing the work to dig into the past is so important.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So on that note, so we're getting to the fourth
Yes.
practice, and that is called envisioning. And that is really, you know, when you're stepping into a new role, right? You want to be less anxious, you want to be a more empowered woman, you want to be a sensitive man, whatever it is, you've got to be able to do that envisioning work and really create those elements where you're tasting it and you're feeling it before it happens, you know, because it's almost like the cells in our body gets wind of it and it becomes easier to step into that role. And why are we doing this is because a lot of uncertainty is coming our way when we step out and do things differently. Uncertainty in the form of people, of situations, of your own doubts. You know, when I was leaving my marriage, it was a big stigma, you know, oh, you've got, you know, this golden husband, right? You've got your life, you know, lined up. Why would you want to step out of that? And you're breaking, we don't believe in divorce. You're breaking the religion, tradition, that stuff, right? So this is that's an example of how outer authority, outer situations and influences can come in and sabotage you stepping into that new empowered person. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Make a lot of sense because right there you're telling them, okay, I have chosen to actually look into my buried treasure, and I've decided that it's treasure and it's not garbage, and I'm going to take it up. Looking into your past is just like empowering yourself because you're like, okay, and moving forward, I can't take this with me.
Yes.
Yeah. In spite of what they may feel, and that's when your courage comes. That's when the power in women and the woman in power comes in, where she disconnects from everything, every external, and she goes into that God self and says, this I can feel, I can taste it. In spite of the golden husband, I see jewel husband. I see golden. If that's what I choose, I know that what this is I want more.
Yeah.
I'm worthy of more. Once you set that, courage is not even something that you have to go fight for. It's something that just oozes into you like toothpaste coming out of the tube. It's just so easy. You just say, I deserve better. I feel it. You know, I feel it. I taste it. What freedoms, what uncoupling feels like. Ooh, I want some of this. And then you just go get it.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I think of it like when you're learning to ride a bike or you're going to the gym, you don't start with the 50-pound weight, you start with the 5. So this is really what this envisioning is, getting small doses of it so you can really feel comfortable with fully embodying it when it's time to jump, you know? So,
Speaking with a friend of mine today, and one of the things that we didn't say that we're grateful for having the opportunity with this self-imposed isolation to allow, you know, the whatever's going on happen. But we were like, you know, we have so much paperwork that we can do during this time.
yeah.
in self-imposed isolation. I just decided I've gotten everything that I need and I'm going to just stay by myself. And in it, I can finish my book. I have we have stuff that we can do. So when you recognize that, you know what, I can set the intention and I can envision myself getting all of this work done. It's like I have a choice to take this as an opportunity, as a buried treasure.
Yes. Yes.
So we can use this time and see
that was a beautiful example of you took that self-imposed and you cleared the confusion and you saw the opportunity.
Yes.
Right?
I am so there.
It's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. So I want to move on to the next principle.
Yes.
And then this one is transition mojo.
I love it.
So, when you're, let's, talk about the women that have children, they're birthing something. When you birth that baby, you needed focus, discipline, commitment, you needed faith, and you needed energy, right? This is the same thing here. One of the things why people give up when they're stepping into a new role is they don't see results. They don't see quick results. But there's a way to do this. Like you're going through a transition. You're birthing something.
Yes.
And that needs to be honored. And that's what needs to be understood when you step into doing something like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this means carving out time for yourself. It means getting physical, meaning moving around to let go of negative energy, right? Negative emotions, because your mind's going to be, I call it gremlins in my book. Your gremlins are your negative self-talk, the negative programming. It's going to come up and say, what are you doing? You're not worthy. You don't deserve this. Who do you think you are? And you got to clear all that out, because that is extra baggage you're taking on, and it doesn't belong in this new role you're stepping into.
Correct. And in stepping in, I'm agreeing so 100% with you, Cindy, is that when you are in a place where you are raising this or coming into this new birthing, this is going to be, this entire global effect is going to change us. We're going to be completely changed. We've never had anything like this, where there's cities shutting down, all restaurants, all schools are out. This is a time for us to say, okay, do I want to panic or do I want to go within? And as you were sharing, don't take on any more. Don't worry about, oh my God, suppose I die. Oh my God, suppose I die. I'm in self-imposed isolation because I'm afraid. I am just allowing space for myself. And that's the hope that I have for everyone that's looking at this now and that will look at it later on, and everything that they're doing is you're taking this opportunity to go within and acknowledge that the world is not going to be the same when we're finished here. Yeah. What things can I change? What things can I stop buying? What things can I think is important? What things are things that I have made my trigger to disconnect from who I truly know that I am? What are the things that I sometimes put on to hide or to run away from just having self-care time? Mm-hmm. This is a time where we got to really use it as what it is an opportunity that the world is never going to be the same.
Yes.
So what are you going to do with the new you?
Yes.
The new you that's coming out of all schools are locked down in the nation. That has never been. Mm-hmm. I've been in this country since 1962. I've never seen that. This is new. What are you going to do with your children while they're at home? What are you going to do with yourself?
Yes.
What new things can you set up? What new rules that you can set up? What kind of new steps that you can take for the physical? Can you go out and walk in the sun? A family walk in the sun, go hiking, start moving, and the sunshine, because what I heard, the corona does not like heat. So you want to go in the sunshine. Can I go out and just walk with my children? What can you do? The discipline that you want to set up in your home. When you wake up in the morning, do you get up and turn on the music? No, let me shut down. Do we have prayer again as a family? Do we have meditation? Do I go back to the practices that I know of Reiki or yoga or Qigong that's going to help me to set up the discipline for giving birth? When you wake up in the morning and you have a new baby, you can't think about, did I have diapers last night? You have to have everything set up.
Yeah.
In giving birth, you have to prepare everything. You have your little baggage before you go to the hospital and all of that set up. So this is now giving us an opportunity to have our transition module. When we wake up, we start with our meditation. We start with an intention for the day. Today, my children and I are going to have a beautiful time because they are home from school and they're not looking like, oh my God, I got these kids in here.
Yes.
Crazy. They're saying, yes, or dad, and so what can I do? What is my new mojo? How are we going to find peace? Because if we are going to be in this home and this place together, we got to create new identities. We're giving birth to new relationships. Sometimes we say we don't have time to spend time with our little child or big child or teenager or whatever. This is giving us that opportunity. Sit down, listen to them. What's going on with them? Versus, oh, just get in the bus, get in the car. We got to go. We got to get you. We got to go. This is an opportunity for us to mend those relationships and start new relationships. I'm excited.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because this leads me into the sixth practice, which is being around the right support circle. So if you are parents and you have kids, here's a chance to be role models for your children, right? Because when they grow up, they're gonna have challenges throughout their life. So wouldn't it be great for them to take stock of how you all will deal with it, and that's going to get ingrained in them, and they're going to take that and run with it in the future, right?
Yeah. That's great.
So that's why it's so important when you're stepping into a new role, when you're trying to let go of your programming, when you're trying to do something you've never seen done. It's so important to surround yourself with cheerleaders, with uplifting people, with people that see something in you that you might not quite see or feel yet, right? So that's one of the things that's a practice that I learned, because one of the things I notice, in the culture is there's so much beauty. I mean, the women would get around and, they would cook together, there would be dancing, there would be old stories, that kind of thing. And then there was this also level of competition, this sort of, they didn't quite feel they were worthy. So there was this thing of not really quite feeling supported. Do you feel me on this one?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
And then what happened too is comparison came in.
Pick me.
Yes. Like, oh, she looks like this. Oh, she's this way. Oh, she does this, da, da, da. And all that stuff dehumanizes people. Your gifts don't get to come out when people are comparing you and you're comparing yourself, And
connect from you. From who you really are.
Yes.
Oh, you're pretty, you're smart. But everything is saying, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yes.
And that's when you get angry, frustrated, rage, bad health.
Yes. And what I also noticed too is, looks there was such a heavy emphasis on looks on women versus men. And so then from young, the women, that was like, okay, so for us to be seen or heard, we need to look a certain way.
Correct.
Right? So I saw what worked and what really needed some improvement. And this is what I'm talking about, why it's so important for one to go out and see new ways of thinking, new ways of being, and where do you really feel support? You know, what kind of support are you looking for? You know, because there's cheerleaders and then there's emotional vampires.
I love it. Love it. Gotta write that one down along with emotional vampires.
Yes. And they, you know, that's why they say, you've heard this, you're the average of the 5 people you spend your time with.
Oh, yes, I believe that very much. I believe that, sucker.
Yeah. So this is even more important when you're stepping into a new role. It's vital for you to have the 5 right people, you know, because
Yes.
I mean, you know, you do.
That 6th one could bring you down and bring all others off.
You know, like I mean, you know, this is, for example, in my work, you know, if a woman is, let's say she's in an abusive marriage, right? And she has her friends saying, well, you need to put up with it. Oh, you know, there's nothing better out there. Or, you know, this is the cards you were dealt with. Well, you know, most likely she's going to stay, or most likely she's going to think, oh yeah, that's how things are. Right? So this is why that support system is so critical, Yeyefini. So now this leads me to my 7th practice. And this one is so important because this is where you take everything, all those practices, and you really get to test it. So this is where you make the decision to be that new person, to take that leap. To say, you know, in this situation here, I'm going to choose to be less anxious about this virus. I'm going to see what the challenges, I'm going to see what's emerging. Perhaps it's for me to be calmer. Perhaps it's for me to be more centered, a better mother, a better friend, right? So, you know, dive into my artwork, what have you, right? So this is what I mean about leaping. So we're going to stop moving towards the complaining, making these choices that make us feel defeated and feeling hopeless, and really move into feeling empowered, confident, focused, a clarity. And with this, when you take the leap, you and I talked about this, Yeyefini, you've got to be connected to that God center. You've got to be, it could be Buddha, you know, Jesus, whoever it is to you, you know, but it's got to be that place where you get your signs, signals, you tap into your intuition. Something greater is leading your life.
Yes, yes. Yes, something greater is leading your life. Say that again.
Something greater is leading your life to a higher way of being. And this is what you need to tap into. You need to jump and tap into this, because I've learned I'm
taking notes.
I've learned in my biggest changes, you know, standing up to my culture, living in another country, speaking, you know, all these things, right? I've learned there's always had to be a level of trusting something greater that's guiding.
Yes.
You know, especially being a woman, if you're doing things you've never seen other women in your culture do, it's even more necessary. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, yes, I would definitely agree. To be brave and not be considered revolutionary or antisocial, to be brave. Yeah. Kindly, softly brave.
Oh, I love that. Yes, exactly. And you know, the thing about stepping out is when you've touched into that God space, there's this feeling that you know you're taken care of.
Yep.
Like, come what may, you're in the valley of the shadows, whatever, you're going to be all right.
That's right.
Yes.
Because at that point, you're really connected to who you really are.
Yes.
Because fear is not real. Fear has nothing to do with right now. Because that's the only thing right now.
Yes.
That's the only thing that, you know, because you're so connected to the source, to the divine, to the universe, to everything. You're in love again. The flowers seem brighter. Everything is just, I'm okay. Yeah, I love that. To feel that connection to source is just knowing that you rock,
Yes.
that you are everything. And that's what we have to come back to in all of our practices and all of the distraction, is to know that you will be fine.
Yes.
In everything, you will be okay. Know
Absolutely.
what okay looks like to you. Is okay meaning feeling at peace? If that's it, then you're good.
And that's also the courage needed to dive into that space of, because perhaps most of your life you were in that anxious zone, and that, you know, guess what, that was never really you. So you are in the God space, you know, and that's that. So when you touch into that and you really start to embody that and live from that, then everything else is just, I don't know, Yeyefini, what would you say? Everything.
The beauty of it for me is that you have to sometimes look back and laugh at yourself. I think we're trying to do all of that. And then you come to that, you're like, this has always been here and it's free. Oh, come on. This is free.
Yeah.
All I gotta do is sit down and breathe. Just take my tongue, put it at the roof of my mouth, breathe in and breathe out. And that's free. You can do it at the doctor's office. You can do it while you're driving. You can do it and when you come to that, that makes you very humble.
Right.
Is that all of this other stuff that you think you got to shop for, buy the latest, get the right color, get all of that? That's a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And it doesn't last.
It doesn't last. Whenever I come to a point from after all of this, and I come to the point of this, I just laugh at myself and say, was that you 10 minutes ago? That was crazy. That was crazy. And at this point in my life, I live alone. My daughter's very close. She lives around the corner, but I live alone. So a lot of time I'm talking to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, da, 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 da. And I just ask myself, that was crazy. You know that, right? And myself is saying, yes, that's crazy. So for me, it's very, very important to know that, you know, to meditate and to focus and to share with our listeners the importance of knowing that it's free. And when you breathe and you connect to that perfect expression known of whatever name you want to call it,
Yeah.
Kahuna, Allah, Buddha, Jesus, Obatala, Ra, whatever you call that source, that energy that makes you know that you are both male and female. In the moment, you possess everything to be greater than what just happened and to be ready for whatever is going to come. That's God to me.
It is. And I loved what you said about laughing. You know, because I know myself, one of my gremlins was being a perfectionist, and it was controlling life and
Yes.
not laughing. And laughing brought so much levity to my life. It took that cloud off, and to laugh at yourself and be silly and know that it's all right to make mistakes.
Yes.
Part of growing, right?
Yes.
And I want to share also with the listeners some pitfalls too of why we don't step into the new role.
Yes, please.
Yes. So what prevents us from really tasting the sweet space that we're talking about, right? One is not knowing how to navigate. So you start, you know, saying, you know what, I'm going to step in this role. I'm going to be less anxious. And then something happens where a bunch of situations come and you're right back into the cycle of being anxious, and so that's one, is not knowing how to navigate. Another is not knowing what decision is right or not right for you. So that could be like, when the women growing up that I was around, they would listen to authority and listen to men. And there's beauty in that, but if it comes to betraying yourself
At a cost.
and your own value system, and then you're in that gray area of not knowing what decision is right for you, that can keep you stuck.
Sabotage.
Yes. Another thing I noticed too is not managing your energy levels. So we got a certain amount of energy that we could put towards inspiring ourselves, living intentionally, growing, or we could take that same energy and put it in complaining, victim, feeling like I don't have choices. And then you don't have much energy left for you to make this change. Right? So that's what I see slips folks up. Another is not envisioning.
Yes.
If we don't touch it to that empowered woman, or that woman who wants to claim her worth, feel better about herself, uplift herself so she could truthfully come with a cup overflowing, right? Then we can't create this woman. We're not dedicating the time to create this woman, or man for that case. Another is the lack of self-confidence and resilience. So either they've been beaten down so much that they don't have the confidence to even explore this or even take the leap, right? Because if you don't have the confidence, then here's what people think. And I learned this recently, is people want the courage and then they'll jump. But it's when you jump, you get the courage.
There you go.
You
just gotta surrender that you want more than this, and then you just fly.
Yes.
And just say, whatever it is, I don't need this. This chaos that's going on around here is not helping me. So let me make a decision to just surrender to the fact that this could be something good. All of this is happening, and us having to be inside and away from people. This could be something good.
Yes.
And then that's the leap of just surrendering. Because worrying about what's going on and whether we're going to be locked down, if the kids are home and all of that stuff, you're not going to be doing yourself any good, because then you'll be worse than the children. They'll be like, Mom, you're 14. Or you're acting like you're 12. Versus, wow, Mom. Go ahead, Mom.
Right.
Go ahead, sister. Go ahead, wife. You're like, You just release it and says, you know what, we can't change what's going on. Let's go inside and change what we can do. So you just surrender to it. And then that's like you say, once you just leave, you got the courage then to say, oh, okay, I'm not going to be backing up on this. I'm going to go through the whole process.
Yes. So this leads me to the next one, which is the lack of right support circles.
Yes.
So if you're in a place where it's constantly, people are chaotic, they're like running around like a chicken with their head cut off, right? You're more likely to absorb that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're more likely to stay in that muck, right? Instead of rise above it. Mm-hmm. With finding people that they have a different perspective. They have a different way of being. They have inspired thoughts, right? They see better ways for themselves. And this is the space that you need to be in when you're making that change. Another is limiting your resources. So if a change comes and you're trying to step into this new role, and if you keep doing what you're doing, you're hanging out with the same people, you're reading the same stuff, you're taking in the same energy, you're having the same experiences, you're limiting your resources. It's going to keep you in that cycle, so it's being able to seek out new inspired experiences, situations, information. And so those are some things, pitfalls that I see people that keeps them trapped and they're unable to make that change. Now, the good news is I talk about all this in my book along with the pitfalls, and I am happy to gift this to your listeners.
Yes, I'm so excited.
My gift as part of Women's History Month.
Yes.
And I will send you the link. You could put it in the comments.
Yes, definitely. So this has just been, I feel refreshed. I feel like I took a spiritual bath or a journey somewhere, and I just took a shower before this. Because I just love when I'm in the space of people, women especially, but people, children, animals. I'm a dog lover.
I am too.
Anything that, yes, I saw that you have. I love dogs. But anyway, anyone or anything that makes me feel, life is good. And so you make me feel, life is good. There are women doing the work, inspiring others. And I now have a new friend, Cindy, that I can call to be part of my tribe to say, hey, I'm looking back, and you can say, boom. And I can thank you. That's so important. And that's what I try to be. I am God's cheerleader, whatever that means. It's that wherever this, and that's how I am, even in private. I sometimes go into the chaos because I'm used to be a perfectionist. I'm recovering. and in the moment, I'm always like, oh God, I hope this is not. But then when I see, I'm like, you got this.
Yes.
Sometimes looking back from where I come from to where I am, that's usually something for me to look at and says, you know what? You're a strong sister. A strong sister, because sometimes now at my age I look and I say, oh my God, I don't even recognize myself. I got wrinkles, I have all of this. And then I said, but you know what? For your age, girl, you and sometimes I have to talk to myself like that. And then I start beginning it, and I put on the dress and I pull out my shoulders, because everybody know I love my shoulders and I love my feet. And I just pulled that on, and I'm like, ooh, and somebody said, that's beautiful. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with the wrinkles.
Yes.
How I feel about myself. I feel so attractive. I feel so happy. So really in my life, that's how I am. Most of the time, as a child, I've always been this excited about everything. And I share in my story and it's in my book, that as a child, I just love life. So when I was in school, they considered me a slow learner, because when I was in school, I was bored with the systematized education, where you have to know this to get to this, to get to that. While we're in school and we're supposed to be learning math, I'm trying to figure out, how come so-and-so came to school without her hair done? There's something going on. I need to talk to her about what's going on. Or why is it that my teacher is so, I was so social, I wasn't going on in everything that was going on in the classroom.
Yes.
And I couldn't focus on my work. And that gave me some insecurity. And then when I came to this country, I couldn't read English, so they put me in the slow learners class and all of that's what they call them. And so the insecurity that I had with those things, there's somewhere inside of me that I always knew that I was supported by something.
Right.
I
Yeah.
know what to call it, because by church I was distracted. The organized system that I saw loopholes in it, and I was like, nah, this is not God. This is not how I feel. So in saying that, I'm saying that somewhere along the line, I was always connected to know that there is something. I later found out it was spirit, and I knew, now I call it spirit of God and universe and source. But when you are growing up and you feel disconnected and from what is expected, and you're only connected to what you feel, that is a sacred child.
Yeah.
That is a sacred child. And there's so many children, there's so many women and men that are of that type, that are connected to really inside. And they're considered strange or weird, abnormal, or they have some kind of letter of the alphabet that they're given this diagnosis. That's not true. That is not true. Everyone is a special being connected to what makes us breathe at night, what makes our heart beat while we're not even paying for it. Are we saying, okay, we've had 5,000 beats, let me reprogram, let me take this special breath because it only comes between 3 and 4. Everything is provided for us.
Yes.
Look at life like that. We have the support, we have the resources, the new inspired situations for us to look at all that's going on with a sense of, you know what, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. We have people like Cindy that's doing the work, people like Yeyefini that's doing the work, people like Akanke that's doing the work, people like so many women. And this is just, I'm just in this space of just us right now that are doing the work to keep us centered. So for you to open and be that generous to give us a book just because, I mean, God is ever providing for us, ever providing for us. So thank you for the book. Thank you, because I know it's going to change my life, because every morning I pray and ask God to let me be a tool and a vehicle for something greater. And for me to get this book is going to be something greater. There's some word, a chapter, something you're going to say that's going to help me to evolve to a greater expression of myself. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that. For taking your journey as a tool of empowerment to change this world that is useful at a time like this. That for me is God. So you are God. You are an expression of God. You are giving God a beautiful face, a beautiful accent, a beautiful experience. You are God. And I just bow to you and just thank you for being a part of this show today to help men and women to know how to connect, use the principle, the 7 steps, and just when you're feeling disconnected, just breathe.
Yes.
Just connect to inside of us.
Absolutely. And I want to say, Yeyefini, the divine in me bows to the divine in you.
Ashe.
And I want to close with this message to your listeners. It starts with being kind to yourself.
Ashe. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So thank you, my friend Cindy, my tribe member, my dog loving friend, my Caribbean raised sister. Like I was raised in Panama. So we have so much in common, and the work that we're doing, we're just starting. We're going to be working together again. I am sure, I know, because anytime something makes joy to me, I share it with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Yeyefini. And thank you, everyone, for lending me
Yes.
your ears. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And everyone that's listening, have a blessed day. Look in the comments, and you're going to see the information to get your book, and we'll talk along here on Facebook. So thank you, Facebook. The makers of Facebook, I thank you. Social media, for just being here for us as God. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Have a blessed day.
Namaste.